Hello and welcome back to Raging Loop. One side story down, 4 to go. And I think we're just gonna go down the list. Illusion comedy. This one is gonna be comedy horror apparently. Then we've got just horror, comedy, and documentary. Okay. The high-strung doctor worries. To him, the end is in fact the beginning of everything. What is he to do with the rampaging woman destroying his image of her? Ah, I see. The rain is over. What a relief. I must take out the garbage today and do the laundry. There's shopping too. Some things were on sale. I should get it done before things become too hectic. Now, I couldn't be more glad that the rain is over. Kiyonosuke Nosoto was aware that he was blessed. Though Fujiyoshi wasn't the best place to be born in, his family was rich and upheld good values. Unlike his wise, talented brother, he was a normal person, but he was given all he needed and then some. He'd also survived the horrible disease he'd gotten. Upon growing up, he began to feel like something wasn't right and left the village. Thankfully, no one was there to stop him. Outside, he was no longer one of the special village heads, but even so, he continued to be blessed. There were no major accidents or failures, and he knew decent people. With the degree of education he had, he'd become able to be a doctor. That was when he'd realized that there was nothing in particular that he wanted to do, but even so, he was blessed. It was a simple happiness, comprised of nothing but the fact that he couldn't complain and didn't ask for most of the things he could easily gain. Enjoying his relaxed lifestyle, fully aware of that, many months and years passed by. Then, in March, his family called him. They told him to stop wasting time playing around and come work at the village clinic. That was the first moment of actual discomfort he'd experienced. Naturally, he'd expected to be told something like this. He didn't want to return to the village, for he understood that he couldn't act the way he wanted to back there. In that village, village heads were supposed to command authority. It was right for them to be superior to the common folk and look down on Yasumizu. Thus, he'd acted exactly in that manner and was mocked because of it, earning the unwelcome moniker of Nosoto, of the Nosoto Blockhead. Looking foolish wasn't a matter of being right. The problem was that he couldn't display talent worthy of his position. That was why he didn't want to be dragged into this at all. This was the reason why he'd left, after all. The truth was that there were ulterior motives behind it. The ones who'd ordered it were the Miguruma. They'd broken their non-interventionist policy and ordered the Nosoto to summon their second son, and the family couldn't say no to that. However, Kiyonosuke wondered if even the Miguruma actually knew why they had to invite him. After all, not even he could really believe that he'd been saved from a supernatural conspiracy which had nearly killed him. Well, I guess I have to believe it. Too many things don't make sense otherwise. For example, the fact that the Snake's family abandoned their absolute power over the village, lost many of their people to a strange disease, and scattered completely. For example, the fact that the Monkey's family abandoned their control over Fujiyoshi's livelihood, suddenly escaped at about the same time as the Miguruma fell. For example, the fact that the dissolution of the two most powerful families meant that his family, the Crow, would control the village now. And the final example? The fact that the descendant of the spider, who'd controlled everything from the shadows, was in this old house. Ahem. There was no time to grow complacent. The situation had been completely unlike what he had imagined. It wasn't a happy ending, at least for her. He wasn't warped enough to enjoy being with an unhappy girl, and he shouldn't be. Rikako Uematsu was lying in her bed on her stomach. Her limbs were completely spread out. Ahem. The sleeping clothes she wore were as erotic as underwear. The actual clothes he'd bashfully bought her had been torn apart and left in the corner of the room. He'd then asked for Chimi Serizawa's help, but she'd only bought lewd clothes. She thought it was a bit of bullying, but upon seeing them, Rikako turned bright red, shifted uncomfortably, then agreed to wear them, for some reason. She might have realized that wearing them made it hard for Kinosuke to look at her. By the way, she was awake right now. Her posture was actually more normal when she slept. That's indecent, Rikako. Shut up. Please stop. That's just... Instead of replying, Rikako tried to roll and face upwards, but instead she just fell out of bed. A crash. Doesn't it hurt? It does. Should I look at it? Shut up, dummy. Earwax, ground beetle, octopus, mole, shaver, you lazy good-for-nothing. You watched the educational channel yesterday, didn't you? Ever since they'd moved here, Rikako hadn't left at all, and just spent the entire day in her room. All she did was eat, sleep, and watch TV. And that was true good-for-nothing behavior. She particularly liked animal and learning shows for children. For whatever reason, she even watched the reruns at noon. Kinosuke brought her food from the nearby dining hall, and she ate it without even using chopsticks. He tried making sandwiches for her, but she didn't touch them at all. Rikako Uematsu was impossibly sulky. The weather is great. Why not go outside for once? I had your usual kimono cleaned. You don't have to wear the maid outfit that idiot Serizawa bought. What's with the pose? It's an offensive incitation. Please don't move your limbs in that position. Faster. Please stop, that's too insect-like. Her current behavior was completely unlike the refined, beautiful Rikako Uematsu he knew. In fact, this creature didn't even resemble a woman. So, is this because you want to see Fusaishi? Huh? What a severe misunderstanding. I am simply fulfilling my role as the loser. Role as the loser? This was the first proper conversation in a while, but he found it more confusing than gratifying. You would not understand the many sweet struggles we had over the millions of dreams. And to have it all end like that is degrading. But a loss is a loss. Thus, I would be as pathetic as a loser can be. That is what I am presenting myself as right now. Oh, how pathetic. Kinosuke almost laughed as she, still expressionless, resumed flailing her limbs again. Instead, he held it in and asked, Are you referring to the logic that Fusaishi wasn't his real name? Huh? That was a product of his exceptional skill. That was probably what helped him enjoy the feast so much. If I could have used the many Uematsu skills to make him talk, it would have been grand. Yet, in that moment, in the darkness, that fanged monster attacked. It makes no sense. That thing. It's all that thing's fault. It's the reason why I lost the Tsuchigumo of dreams. Rikako moved around in an unnerving manner and started crying again. Her beautiful face was warped and she crawled around like a child throwing a tantrum. Kinosuke sighed. His position in this incident, that he knew next to nothing about, was actually a bit special. The looping phenomenon created by none other than Rikako Uematsu. Just about everyone involved couldn't remember anything about it, or more like the things that had happened were just undone. It only made sense. On the other hand, there were Haruaki Fusaishi, Shimi Serizawa, both who kept their memories into the next loop after dying, and the mysterious woman Mitsuji Misamine. Besides that, there was Haru Makishima, who could read Haruaki's mind. She clearly remembered Rikako Uematsu's plot. Because of Haruaki's planning, the only effect on the real world was Great Lord Shinai's death. Thus, the people of Yasumizu hadn't been told anything else, not even about Fusaishi. However, Kinosuke Nosoto was an exception. He had Fusaishi and Serizawa tell him everything and knew the outline of the incident. Besides Chikamochi Kamoshida, who somewhat understood what happened, Kinosuke was the only one who knew of the incident, but didn't experience it himself. How did he get into this position? It was because Fusaishi trusted him, for some reason, but more than that, it was for Rikako Uematsu. Kinosuke and Rikako were actually the only ones who didn't participate in the Atami trip. Rikako Uematsu had been bound by Mitsuji Misamine and her people, and was examined in some way. Kyonosuke was considered her guardian during that. Though they were just locked in some strange facility, they had to wait there a few days. He was glad to not have gone with the people of Yasumizu, as he wasn't on good terms with them. He was worried about Rikako though, and during their confinement, Misamina's people were strangely nice and constantly said that they wouldn't do anything bad to them. It made him feel powerless, but he was used to that. He trusted their words and expected Rikako to be freed quickly. That was exactly what happened after a week. However, that was only the beginning of the trouble. Rikako Uematsu had no ID. If the Miguruma had still been in power, they'd have probably taken it upon themselves to cover up her existence. For better or worse, the Miguruma had been destroyed during the week in the facility. As for Rikako herself thought of this, I don't care. I'm tired. Let me die of hunger. Needless to say, it wasn't much help. They had no choice but to spend 3 days in a hotel, with her in a different room, of course. One day, Chiemi came to visit. She'd been the one who told Kyonosuke of the incident while he was running to Rikako. It's probably not my business to look out for you like this, but I came to help out if you need me. Rikako seems to be safe now, so what are your plans? As it turned out, Misamina had told her the situation, so she understood most of it. Kyonosuke went and asked her to tell him about the incident again. It was just that absurd of a story. Then she asked him about what he'd do with Rikako. He replied that he'd take care of her until she recovered from her state of lethargy. Masato, you're a gentleman, huh? Sorry, I thought way less of you. That apology itself was rather insulting, but Kyonosuke didn't find it enraging. Chiemi then asked to meet up with Rikako. Kyonosuke wasn't sure about it, but Rikako insisted to have a one-on-one with her, so he ended up staying outside as they faced each other. It has been a while, Serizawa. Have you come to make fun of the foolish loser? Loser? Dumped and dumb spider, you timid perv. I don't think I forgot what you said that one time. Who are you calling urine reeking and not in demand? You said many vile things to me too. You're the one who started it, and it reeks here. You stink. How long ago did you last have a bath? Shut up. I'll bathe as little as I want. Eat this reek attack. Ah, what the hell? This actually looped back around to being funny, but you're being an absolute catastrophe of a woman. Alright, I know a lot's happened between us, but you aren't a stranger to me, so I'll help you out. I don't need anything. Leave. Huh? You think a loser has a choice? After the exchange, which could easily be heard from behind the door, Serizawa spent the whole day buying lots of stuff for Rikako, most of which Kyonosuke couldn't comprehend. Serizawa said her goodbye after demanding Kyonosuke pay an absurd sum for the items. Well, if she's trouble, just call me. I'll discipline her whenever you need me to. He was at a complete loss for words, but since Rikako had become a bit more cooperative, he really couldn't complain about this. Though she did seem a lot more sulky. That day, the man calling himself Fuzashi sent Kyonosuke an email, even though he didn't recall ever giving him his email address, which contained some additional information. I'm mailing to tell you some things I couldn't tell you when playing God. The courteous email contained the incident from his perspective. There were mentions of the records left behind by in the Nosoto Yasumizu mansion and the eye of the Miguruma, the surveillance control system. He had no reason to doubt anything anymore. They continued to exchange a few mails, but none of them mentioned Rikako. That was when he was called back to Fujiyoshi. With his brother as the current head of the family and mayor of the village, they were so busy that they summoned the supposedly subpar Kyonosuke. After asking the concierge to look out for Rikako, he returned to Kami Fujiyoshi and met with his brother. He learned a few things. The Nosoto were aware that something had been happening behind the scenes and that it led to the Miguruma collapsing. Some of the people, especially his brother, actually felt a change happening in the village. There was a psychological, or perhaps religious change. As a central figure in the Shinai faith, he could feel this, even if he didn't want to. But even so, he had no way to know that it was all Uematsu's fault, and that she needed to be taken away from the village. Kyonosuke explained it to him with as much detail as he could. Though her ambitions had been crushed and she was harmless now, returning her to Yasumizu was difficult. However, she had special powers, so it was best to avoid trying to harm her or rousing her grudge. Basically, she needed to be kept away from the village, and that he would take it upon himself to do it. His brother instantly said that it was only because he had feelings for her. However, with all the information Serizawa and Fusaishi had given him, Kyonosuke had no reason to falter. On the same day, he brought his brother to Yasumizu's Nosoto mansion and unsealed a certain piece of evidence. Using that as proof, he explained to him that during the last mist there was supposed to be a fearsome massacre event, and that some outsider who somehow knew about it stopped it. It was quite hard to believe. But Kyonosuke explained it with more intellect, sincerity, and passion than ever. When it came to Rikuku Uematsu, Kyonosuke told his brother that her exploitation at the hands of her family and the Miguruma had made her plot to destroy them. To Kyonosuke, that didn't seem like a lie. Even if she had been working to fulfill the ultimate desire of her ancestors, it was those around her who'd pushed her over the edge. That was just how terrible her circumstances were, and his brother had to have known that even better than Kyonosuke. In the end, he gained his brother's trust, though most of it was due to the documents left by their forefathers and physical proof, such as the camera. And as head of a herbalist household, he knew of the unnerving paranormal healing methods employed by the Uematsu heads. He also knew that the Uematsu had even controlled the Miguruma once upon a time. Because of this, for the sake of Fujiyoshi, the head of the Nosoto family had decided to appoint Kyonosuke to shelter and hide Uematsu. However, there were conditions for that. She couldn't come near Fujiyoshi, and he had to watch over her at all times. Kyonosuke also couldn't expect any help with matters regarding her. If you considered the state of the Nosoto family and the threat of the Uematsu, Kyonosuke's brother was basically cutting them off entirely. But he'd agreed to that. Your son was chased out too, but he's still trying to find a place for himself. Everyone must leave their nest someday, but I think that came a bit late in my case. Oh, one more thing. Even if these documents made you re-evaluate our grandfather, don't try to call Shikamoshi back to you. You did consider it, didn't you? It's written all over your face. You wonder why you can't? Because God will punish you. That aside, you can't handle Yasumizu as you did before. I heard of their circumstances. You should consider trying to talk to them. You have enough time for that, don't you? Kyonosuke then left the Nosoto mansion. The mist had cleared long ago, but there was someone waiting for him here. It was Takumi Muro. You're leaving again? Laugh if you want. With this, I'm not even a village head anymore. Huh? It's that serious? Yes, you won't see me around much anymore, but I have to fulfill my promise to God at least. What happens to Uematsu? Oh, I'll have to take care of and shelter her until she calms down. I heard it was a disease that spread among only the village heads. What was it anyway? You wouldn't understand. Ugh, you never change, do you? Of course, Nosoto or not, I'm still a blockhead. I take that back. You actually changed. Who knows? Maybe it's the village that changed. If that's the case, then you're one of the ones who witnessed the change with your own eyes. I still wonder if that was all a dream. Same here. Well, lives can change due to dreamlike things, can't they? See you later, Muro.
And you still don't call me senpai, huh?
Like I could at this point, it's embarrassing.
Yasumizu will change. It may become a place that can welcome hundreds of guests just like centuries ago.
Who said something that bold?
Who knows? But it does look like our god wants it more lively here. I think the young ones are about to start something.
Oh dear. Sounds like things are about to get busy. Looks like leaving and helping her rest is the right move here.
Once it settles down, you come visit too, and bring your pretty wife.
We're not like that. And it doesn't seem like she can return to Fujiyoshi.
Is it that bad?
Well, there are reasons.
Well, don't overthink it. This is Yasumizu. We don't mind visitors, and the mayor would overlook it, surely.
Maybe you're right. After that, he became extremely busy. He prepared a residence, prepared the move, and secured a workplace. However, it all went swimmingly. With the help of one of his teachers from college, he got a position in a countryside clinic a decent distance away from Fujiyoshi. He'd also been able to buy a cheap place in the mountains not too far from where he worked. It was the perfect place to shelter Rikako and live in secrecy. He quickly signed the contracts and moved there. All that was left now was getting his things from the main Nosoto household transferred to him. Once that was over and he realized how well it all went, he became aware of how blessed he was. There was only one problem left. It was Rikako Uematsu, who was menacing him with a strange sound. What was he to do here? He had no idea. She'd become a monster too much even for him to handle, and he loved her. The fact that she didn't go wild or try to run away implied she was okay with these conditions, but that was as far as it went. What if things stayed this way forever? He couldn't give up just like that. The key to this was persistence. Rikako, that's too indecent. He tried talking to her. What are you trying to do, anyway? She stopped menacing him, and he wasn't sure how to react to her question, even after thinking about it for a few seconds. What do you mean? What do you want to do with me? Again, what do you mean? You can take advantage of me, do what you want with me. I am the loser, after all. Come, do it. With a face as dull as a hammer, she rolled to the side and started spanking herself. It was the negative sort of sex appeal. She had been like this ever since talking to Chiyomi. It was an unproductive, hopeless relationship. Kyonosuke had no idea how to handle it. He would start working as a doctor. The job would be hectic, and though he'd worked as an intern for quite a while, he spent too many years not doing anything, so he was quite worried. When he would be away, a portly housekeeper would look after Rikako, informing him if there were any problems. He hoped that time would fix her, but what if it didn't? Worrying to himself, he left Rikako's room. She continued spanking herself regardless, but then grew bored of it and crawled back into her bed. She couldn't even sigh. Rikako felt like an empty shell now. She'd felt this way ever since that moment of darkness from the end of the incident. Something had taken the Tsuchigumo of dreams away from her. Or more like, it ate it. That was how it felt, at least. The Tsuchigumo of dreams was dead. At the very least, it couldn't fulfill her desire now. She could feel it in her veins. She had no idea what that monster did with the Tsuchigumo, nor did she care. The Tsuchigumo was her everything. The previous Uematsu head had raised her just for its sake. Thus, now that it was lost, she had no ambitions, desires, hobbies, or goals. I ask that you, Rikako Uematsu, abandon the Tsuchigumo's revival and live out a normal, happy life as an ordinary woman, a person. That curse was binding her to this life, but her life was full of pain now. Someone who'd lost her heart couldn't find happiness again. Her happiness was supposed to come with the Tsuchigumo and Fuzashi. Now that she'd lost them both, she was like a loser with a consolation prize. Perhaps she could let herself break easily if Kiyonosuke Nosoto just had his way with her. However, that wasn't happening, and she was left to live as a bored animal, fulfilling only its physical desires. She just grew more irritated. He was surprised that she could still feel irritation. He'd felt a blazing flame of irritation when talking to Chiyomi, but looking back on it, it was strange. Rikako Uematsu had thought that all of her emotions had come from the Tsuchigumo. She'd thought that both the aloof Rikako and the bewitching Uematsu personalities had just been given to her. Perhaps some emotions and desires remained inside her. What of it, though? Would it let her become happy again? No. Absurd. She didn't care. She rolled to the opposite side in irritation. That was when she saw a small spider. She could instantly tell that it wasn't just a normal spider. It is, in fact, a very cute spider. It was very roundish in all aspects, resembling a spider straight from a manga. And it was pink. Could it be? Could it really? Tsuchigumo-sama. It couldn't be. Did her late master actually survive? Rikako looked into it and called out to it. Spider, spider. Oh, look what you have become. You survived. You didn't die. Oh, what bliss. Let us resume our ambition. Let us consume men, make offspring, find a new nest, and keep the bloodline alive. One day, when you resurrect once more, we... Spider? Something wasn't right. It was certainly different than what she knew it to be, but she thought it was simply because it became smaller. However, there was something inherently different about it. The spider actually avoided her when she tried to touch it. It backed away as though falling on its backside, or out of embarrassment. She caught up to it with her fingers and tried touching it. It was soft. It was more soft and warm than any other such critter. After a few pokes, the pinkish spider began to convulse in a strange way, and when she retracted her finger, it fell on its side. Did it die? She assumed that for a moment, but it was still moving its legs slowly, as though breathing. It was just sleeping. Rikako somehow understood that this was a fragment. The wicked, grand, and powerful Tsuchigumo was a being that represented a scary brand of motherhood that birthed and consumed all, and this was just something hiding within its shadow. It was paired with the Tsuchigumo of dreams, and it was small and weak from the start. And it was also the entity representing the extremely bashful yet really love-craved personality that was Rikako. I might not have been as empty as I thought. It was just something that the dark creature had failed to consume, but it was a sign that Rikako was still here. However, she didn't know how to interpret it. Still perplexed, she rolled over again. What do I do? She hadn't even considered what it would be like to live as just Rikako. Was there anything she wanted to do as just herself? She was tired and annoyed, but she remembered how Rikako had once wanted to try loving someone. Without the TV on, her room was a very boring place. She hadn't bathed in a while. That reminded her of Chiyomi's grin, and with great irritation, she went to use the shower. Upon realizing a certain problem, she looked around the bathroom for something but couldn't find it. Kyonosuke had probably removed it out of caution. Oh, foolish. I would not commit suicide. She didn't feel like dying. She knew better than anyone that it was painful, and this wasn't a dream. Following that darkness, she no longer had any control over dreams. Did the pink spider have any powers? Didn't seem that way, so she was still just a woman. And as a woman, what did she think of this situation? This house was constructed with two families in mind, so both floors had a bath and a toilet. This was intentional on Kyonosuke's part, who was considerately giving her space. Thus, ever since moving here, she had never gone down the stairs. That was why Kyonosuke was at a loss for words when she came down all wet and wearing nothing but a bathrobe. Rikako! You've Give me a razor, Nosato. What? What will you use it for? Just so you know, I won't let you use it to harm yourself. I'll get rid of the excess hair. Get my hairy armpits, and just so you know, below why would you say that? Why are you so loud? A doctor should be familiar with hair hygiene, no? Understood. I shall make her go buy some safe ones. Make her? Yes, well, I don't know what kind to get, and I did say that there will be a housekeeper tomorrow. I'll have her buy some. No, you go. Huh? Also, in the Uematsu household, we made it through the monthlies by sheltering in a special house, but what about here? Well, I imagine the local drugstore has something for that purpose. I think I saw an advertisement. It should come for me soon, so buy some of those too. I'll ask her to. Honestly, I want you to fire her. Why? Is there a problem? I do not want to interact with anyone for now, and I can take care of myself and my surroundings, even if it is a pain. But that is how it was in Yasumizu. What happened to you? You were so powerless, and now you suddenly... Armpit hair laser. I can't see it. I'm not looking. I'm simply bored of the television. Also, I cannot imagine what kind of things you may ask of me if I keep relying on you so much. I simply thought that I should try to not be a nuisance. What a good sign, I see, but I should watch over you for a while longer. I will not escape or die. I have no cause to suffer for any more. So there, no housekeepers. If you do not want me to leave, go buy the things yourself. You always bring me so much trouble. Do you hate me now? Then there is no helping it. I shall go support myself, working as a bedroom woman servant again. I'll go, so please wait. After saying that, with a flashed face, Kinosuke left the living room without even looking into her eyes. Phew. For some reason, her irritation had subsided. After getting into her under kimono, she rummaged through the kitchen and found the tea caddy. She didn't know how to use boiled water or fire in general, but she had used a microwave before, so she just warmed up some water and tea leaves in there. She then took the hot cup with her sleeves, sat down on the sofa, and drank. It was too hot, too fragrant, and the leaves were bitter, but she still found it delicious. If their sensations weren't stimulated, people's minds and bodies would atrophy. This really isn't the same. Even when she wore the same clothes as before, she was clearly different now. Back then, there were no times when she didn't think of anything. Whenever she was alone, she would think of the Tsuchigumo. She would think of the ancestral grudge she inherited and pile yet more upon it. By doing so, she would make the Tsuchigumo stronger and more malicious. But now she often thought of nothing. That didn't make her feel empty, however. In fact, the emptiness was fulfilling. She recalled that Buddhism was basically about that. Thinking about such things, she looked to the side. Most of the things Kyonosuke had brought over had been unpacked, and there was already a large TV and bookshelves in the living room. After drinking some more tea, she walked up to a bookshelf. His family were readers, and it was full of large books. Most of them seemed to be about medicine. Avoiding dictionaries and technical books, she picked up a thin, smallish new text. The Foundation of Nursing, Learning from Nightingale's Nursing Notes. The title was complex, but the text inside was in a large, easily read font, aimed at newbies, apparently. She decided to read a bit, as it would stimulate her brain more than the TV. Upon hiding it in her sleeve, she looked at the shelf again. Oh. She found a small pink spider sitting there. Upon noticing that Rikaku was looking at her, the spider jumped into one of the nearby cardboard crates. She followed it with her eyes, but quickly lost sight of it. She then walked up to the cardboard box and opened it. Huh? Forbidden Wife 4, The Afternoon Grail, The Secret Class, The Music of Sweet Moans, The Lustful Hospital, A Prescription of Love and Immorality. It was full of books with black covers. She quickly opened them, closed them, then stuffed them into her sleeves. Then she quickly returned to her room and hid them under a pillow, all with a cool face. She sat down on the sofa and drank the cold tea. Delicious. She said that out of embarrassment, but it didn't hide anything. It was still before noon. She didn't want to read that so early. Instead, she chose to read the first book she found. She hadn't read since middle school, so she read really slowly, but it gradually came back to her, so it wasn't a pain. Even after a whole hour, she wasn't done with half the book, and Kionosuke wasn't back yet. He was either hesitant to buy what she wanted, or was irritated with her and wasting time to cool off. Rikako seemed to be a worse person than she herself realized. She'd only made it through all the hardships in her life with a stoic expression, not because she was naturally calm, but because she had a clear goal. Would Kionosuke grow tired of her if she continued using him like that and pushing him around? Would she feel refreshed when that happened? There was nothing that she wanted to do enough to leave this place and put herself at risk in the process. However, she also couldn't find a reason to stay here. He let her stay here partially out of obligation to his family, but mostly because he liked her. She could give herself to him as thanks, but he probably wouldn't want it. Then, was she supposed to love him? That was difficult. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't see him as more than a sympathetic clown. Ouch. He was a foolish, sad older man who was too fixated on a woman who gave him a special experience only 20 years ago. It was completely impossible for her to love him as much as she had Haruaki Fuzaishi. Then there was only one answer. What a pain. But it would spare her the irritation. As she thought that, she heard a voice outside. She thought she'd misheard it, but no, it was a childish, high-pitched cry. Rikako walked up to the window and looked through the curtains. A child. A small boy was sitting and crying between the hedges. She went to the garden, but even though it was still in the house's territory, she still had to gather her wits. The garden was large, but poorly looked after. It was completely overgrown, almost like a forest. Had this house been unoccupied for that long? But didn't Kionosuke say the weather was good? The sky she could see through the spaces in the leaves was all cloudy. Anyway, the boy. He looked 7 or 8 and was a lot bigger than Meiko. His clothes looked really bad. His shirt was loose and threadbare. But if you ignored that, his face was well structured, making him look quite intelligent. Cute. The fact that the fort felt a bit more dirty than it should made her curse her upbringing. What's wrong? The boy gasped. It made her realize that her appearance probably made her look like a ghost anywhere outside of Fujiyoshi. I am Rikaku Uematsu. Ue for spin and Matsu for end. Who are you? Why would he ask that after she just introduced herself? It made her a bit upset, but then she realized that he wanted to know her situation. I'm someone living here. Huh? You live in a ghost mansion? Ghost mansion? Yes, that's what the third-year boys call it. It was the first time she'd gotten a proper look at the building, and the vines did look a bit ominous. Then there was the unkempt garden. There was grass as tall as her knee, and that again must have been unnerving. Do you get ghosts here? Yes, Takeshi said he saw one. You should not try to get in. People live here. Yeah, sorry. Maybe Takeshi saw you. Me? Yes,
He said the ghost was a pretty lady.
Those words made her heart waver. Was he into older girls? Control yourself.
Huh?
Nothing. I moved here just a few days ago, so you probably have the wrong person.
I see. Then, do you live with ghosts?
She couldn't perceive such things. She might have been able to do something if the Tsuchigumo was still with her and this was a dream, but there was no point considering that. Those of Miguruma blood would probably have the talent to see such things. She remembered that Kyunosuke had said that it was really cheap. Perhaps it had a shady history. Need to be careful. And Uematsu had no reason to fear beings of a different world, but she did have to consider the risks involved. If one mingled with the unknown and the invisible, they had to treat it with proper respect. Kyunosuke would have to be told of this and look into it.
What's wrong? Your face is scary.
Oh, nothing. Nothing. By the way, why did you come here all by yourself? From her time watching TV, she knew that urbanites enjoyed tests of courage where they braved the darkness and Yomi. However, it was something done with others, not alone. He awkwardly looked down as if he was holding something back. Rikaku realized how kind she was being to him. Whatever happened to her unpleasant personality? I do not know if I can take you inside, so let me give you some tea at least.
No, thank you.
She was disappointed.
Can you hear me out?
If you find me acceptable, I shall listen to you.
Thanks. My mom and dad are splitting up.
Into how many pieces? You should have chosen someone else to talk to.
Not that way. They aren't robots. I mean, they're divorcing.
Oh dear. According to TV, it wasn't uncommon these days. A divorce in Fujiyoshi would be the talk of the village.
I'm in the way. Neither mom or dad want to take me.
Why do you think that?
I just do. When they ask Shin, who do you want to be with, they both smile awkwardly about it. I have bad grades and misbehave a lot, so they hate me.
Why are they divorcing?
Dad is never home because of work. Well, mom is tired of all the loans and jobs.
They both work.
Dad is a banker and mom works at a company.
Despite what the boy had said, the way he talked was very detailed, and he seemed to be quite mature for his age. You would never find children like this in a failing household. It was probably going well before. They had to be pretty rich, and the parents were probably more discerning before. But something had happened between them and tore them apart. There was probably no bad guy here. It was just an unfortunate turn of events. To Rikako it seemed that urban society was a machine made of gears that created misery whenever they failed. And since she'd been involved with many marriages and births, she knew a lot about this, even though she had no first-hand experience. Do you think it is impossible for your parents to be together again?
Yeah, unless I'm with them, they don't even talk to each other. And they're always fighting over money.
That seemed difficult. What do you want to do?
I can't choose.
And no one could blame him for that. And that's why you came here.
Yeah, I shouted that I can't choose and ran over here. I thought that I'd save them the trouble if I was killed by a ghost.
He felt that trapped. Though he was probably right in assuming that they would get a divorce and that he had to choose. In fact, that might have been best for their relationship. There were many examples where parents continued to be parents even after divorce, and many examples where the ex-spouses managed to be on good terms again. However, she didn't want to console him with such optimistic thoughts. Life was oftentimes unreasonable and thoroughly filled with despair. It wasn't unlikely that this divorce could lead to the end of this child's future. Ikiko didn't know what to say to him. Would he calm down if she hugged him and told him she was there for him? Who knew? But this Uematsu-like situation was a path she didn't want to take. As the boy resumed crying, Rikako looked around. Her eyes became fixated on a red thread coming off of his shirt. For no real reason, she reached out to pull it free. When she touched it... What's wrong? Did your mother go through a major surgery recently? Huh? How did you know? She then touched another thread she noticed. Your father was given an order to go far away. Yeah, that's right too. His collar was covered in countless colored threads. Most of them were so thin they were almost invisible. They seemed transparent too, and only became more and more transparent as they went on before they vanished. But those two stood out a lot. After all, they were cut. I see. This was a first for her, for she instantly understood what it was. There was a pink spider on the boy's head. This was the power of the frail spider. The timid little creature made it possible for Rikako, who would wish to connect to people, to see such connections as threads. And if they were here... Now, listen. You have to go back home and answer your parents' question. But I will give you a little spell that makes it so they do not look displeased when it happens. That is why you need to think for yourself and make a choice you do not regret. Think about who you want to be with, who needs you, and which one will give you a better future. This time, decide without running away. Understood? She said such complicated words without hesitation or restraint. He seemed to sense her honesty, and nodded, slowly but surely. Good. She'd never expected to sing the song herself. The blessed guests arrived to be welcomed with arms open. Rikako's fingers took one of the cut threads. Mirth with the honored guests is called to celebrate. Her other hand searched through an empty space, creating a cut thread of the same, red color. One soul per day now to bind, the mists rise away again. Threads could be bound. Rikako quickly connected the two threads with a knot. Another night, a special service. The blessed guests arrived to be welcomed with arms open. Mirth with the honored guests is called to celebrate. One soul per day now to bind, the mists rise away again. That was a long-lost song. Back in that land, guests had once been treated and welcomed as gods, and this was an ancient marriage song, used in a time when one-night trysts were common. It went on to be taken away, warped into something sinister, and come back as a saddening color for those under Shinai. She could vaguely remember it as a memory of her Tsuchigumo. That was probably why the strand of divinity took on such a shape in her. Connected. She confirmed that she relinked the severed bond between the boy's father and mother. However, she wouldn't say that. The spell is over. Live strong, even if life is harsh. This world is more modest to the strong. Yeah, that makes me feel kinda better. Thank you, lady. I'm going home. Good. Farewell. The boy ran toward the gap in the hedge, then vanished. No, he fell. She ran up to there and found an unused well hidden by the grass. An unused well. Oh, an unused well. An unused well hidden? An unused well hidden by the grass, yes. Its sides were low enough for someone to fall in. Are you okay? She could hear sounds of water, screams, and ragged breaths from down below. What do I... Ikako? That was when Kyonosuke and Nosato had appeared nearby. So this is where you were. It's good to go outside, but you should not strain yourself too much. Help. Huh? Help. There's a child in the well. Use a rope or something. Hurry, you dunce. The change in situation was sudden, but Kyonosuke quickly took care of it. He used the packing tape from when he moved in as a makeshift rope and quickly lowered himself in. Rikako pulled up when he gave a sign and helped Kyonosuke save the boy. He successfully made it out, but the boy's body had already gone limp. It had taken a while to prepare the rope. He'd drowned during this time. Rikako felt herself become more irritated with Kyonosuke. She almost began cursing him, but she restrained herself. She had to. Kyonosuke had to focus on trying to save the boy's life.
Do you hear me? Get a grip.
While occasionally calling out, he performed CPR on the boy. He was a true doctor right now, and his whole being was invested in saving this dying boy.
Hang in there. Why?
Why? Rikako had wondered that herself. Why did such an unreasonable tragedy have to happen? Why did she have to feel such sadness? Was it because there was no God here? Did God just not exist and the people had to fend for themselves, alone against this cold world?
Why? This is just... I can't believe that his heart stopped only now.
Huh? Before Rikako could voice that,
Nee.
She heard a voice behind her. There was a childlike presence there. He was all smiles, and right next to him there were the presences of two people. Though invisible, they were bits of warped space or distortions in reality. She could also sense that the boy was accompanying them.
I remember. I'm the one who lived here, with Mom and Dad. That day, I cried, tried to run past the trees, and fell into the well. Then Mom and Dad were so sad that they died too. Then, Mom was really pretty. It's been a long time though, so she's like this now. Takashi is so mean. Don't enter your old friend's house to test your courage. Anyway, thank you. Thanks to you connecting the thread, I can take them with me. Yeah. I guess Rise not be fitting for you. Goodbye.
The boy smiled and she smiled back. The next moment, the boy and the two distortions vanished. Sunlight leaked through the trees. The sky was so bright it was hard to believe. It wouldn't be strange to experience something like this in the mountain's darkness, but she didn't expect it here in this town. The world sure was a strange place.
No, it can't be.
Kyonosuke's pitiful voice made Rikako turn around. He was completely shocked. The freshly drowned boy had become a white skeleton about as tall as him. The appearance of human bones had turned this into a matter for the police. They'd already known about what happened here. The married couple committed suicide while their child had vanished without a trace. This house was quite a paranormal hotspot. The strangest thing about this was the fact they had records of searching for the child in the well. The police were confused, then expressed their sympathies for the couple that had unknowingly moved into a ghost house. Rikako replied,
No worries. I'm sure they'd already moved on. Also, I'm not married to this blockhead.
Exhausted, Kyonosuke lay down on the sofa in the living room. Way too many things had happened today. Rikako had left her room, instantly given him an impossible task, made him buy something embarrassing, then experienced something paranormal, and then he'd had to deal with the police. All of that was coupled with Rikako's eccentricity and harsh words, and it was taking a toll on him. He considered whether he would really start living here. Was his plan for his life in this town too incomplete? Was he attempting something far beyond his limits? As he thought to himself,
You seem troubled. Why?
He heard a voice from right beside him.
Rikako, how long have you been there?
What?
I'm no ghost. We're just so lost in thought that you did not notice. I see, but why are you here anyway? If you want me to shut myself on the second floor, I will do just that.
Her tone was as harsh as always, but for some reason she felt strangely close.
I didn't mean that. I'm just wondering what brought this on. Apologies for not asking. I took a book from that shelf. Huh? One about nursing. If it is no problem, I would like to read more. I have nothing against that. I wanted to speak to you about it myself. Help yourself to any book from there. Thank you very much. Can I use this chair for reading? It is very comfortable. Of course. Why are you looking so dejected? It irritates me to see you so listless.
He was in a bad mood again. Kinosuke sighed.
I actually thought you cool for a moment there, and you're back to this. How pitiful.
Huh?
Nothing. Anyway, what happened?
Was she only acting mad to hide that she was worried? All these paranormal things around me are taking a toll.
Does that include me?
I hadn't seen you do anything extreme myself, so not really.
Then there was Fuzaishi's God act on loop. I had no choice but to believe in the latter. Quite a story, was it not?
It was your fault, wasn't it?
Ignoring that,
she played it off.
You have no need to feel too bad for the parents and the boy. Yasumizu unfairly looked down on Yomi, but the village teaching of do not look into the eyes of Yomibito has merit. Do that and they'll drag you in.
Yes, even my teacher had told me that doctors shouldn't go to the morgues too often.
Wait, were you not afraid of corpses?
That wasn't the case back there, huh? It was probably just a lack of experience and courage. Why had the parents become like that? I mean, the boy looked almost completely human.
I heard that those who commit suicide cannot move on and always become something sinister. I can only hope that the boy successfully brings his parents to Yomi.
I hope it goes well for them. Rikuko looked down and fell silent. Inosuke couldn't really understand what she was expressing.
By the way, it was strange that we were not told of this house's nature. Why not go complain to the sellers? They might make the rent even cheaper.
Good idea.
Have you told the housekeeper to not come?
Yes, I cancelled the agreement while I was out.
Excellent. Do you have a cookbook?
Confused by the constant changes in subject, Kyonosuke spoke. There was a book for hospital meals. What do you intend?
I am a freeloader. I cannot imagine you would charge me for staying here, but I want to be able to make food at least.
Huh?
I am already good at cleaning and laundry. I would learn that and earn a place here. I hope that suffices as thanks to you. With that in mind, may I stay here, Kyonosuke Nosoto?
Well, of course, but are you sure?
Please don't misunderstand.
Rikako brought her face, long eyelashes and red eyes closer to him, and Kyonosuke almost stopped breathing.
I seem to become a true bully to you, and only you, which probably means that I might dislike you a lot. However, I do see you deserve some level of respect, so I would simply try not to be a nuisance to you. This does not mean that I am warming up to you. Keep that in mind.
Rikaku spoke a lot, and unusually quickly too. At a loss for breath, she panted a bit, then looked away from him. After seeing that gesture, Kyonosuke, who had feelings for her, instantly forgot his troubles with her and just smiled. I understand, Rikako. I hope we get along.
Be careful. I might toss a bug in your food, just to bully you.
I'm excited to try your cooking. Kyonosuke was blessed. Aware of that again, he looked up at the ceiling. He thought he might have seen a pink bug out of the corner of his eye, but it had to be his imagination. End. By the way, Rikako, you took books from only that one shelf, right?
Of course. What kind of question is that?
That was quite the turnaround. There, it was all wholesome with the boy, and then it just took a complete 180. And then it kind of became wholesome again in the end, maybe a little bit. Anyway, I can't really explain it. I liked that side story a lot more than the first one. I mean, the beginning was a bit meh, and I really don't like the kind of sexual humor that the game sometimes has. It's really not my type of humor. But I really enjoyed that story. We'll see how it continues on in the next one.